Okay. Hello, Dr. Horn. We watched Mr. Holland's Opus, and we decided to make this video together because we watched it together. Mm-hmm. So what we're going to do is you ask for 3 good qualities and 3 bad qualities, essentially, when it comes to engaging students and managing the classroom. And so we're going to share maybe more like 4 or 5 for the positive and negative. It's because some of them we share, and then we had individual ones to add. So we thought that would be a good way to do this.
Well, I'll start with the good qualities of teacher management. The first one that I noticed, it was like towards the middle of the movie probably, was that he used differentiation in a really cool way. So, I don't know if you've seen this movie, but Mr. Holland's son is deaf, and so a lot of his life, Mr. Holland kind of neglects to share music with him because he's afraid of his son being disappointed by what he can't hear and understand, knowing that music is so important to his dad. And so after kind of an argument with his son, in which his son Cole says, like, I care about you, you're my father, of course I care about what you care about, he decides to make his music and concerts more like palpable to deaf and hearing impaired people, and so he uses lights, and I think at one point maybe he used like speakers for like vibration purposes, so that they could feel vibrations, but there were lights that flashed at certain points in the music, I think when like volume levels increased or decreased or certain parts played, but he included that and had this concert that was specifically, I think, tailored more towards deaf people and his son, and at one point he brought in interpreters and sang a song while the interpreter signed the lyrics and dedicated it to his son. So that was a really cool moment that sort of switched his management and what he saw about how he was including all people in his teaching. So that's the first one.
The second positive quality we found was towards the beginning of the movie. It's really like his first realization, his first kind of light bulb moment with his students is when he finds what they like he asks them what kind of music they listen to, and he doesn't want like the Sunday school answer, which would be like classical music, and one of the kids says that, but he wants to actually know what they listen to because he wants to draw from his lesson in teaching them, because I think the class was music appreciation, and he's trying to show them how it's all connected. And so I think that's a great way of engaging the students because he finds what they like and meets them where they are, but he's still making the points he needs to make. Next one.
Another one that I saw was, it wasn't as explicit as others were, but I sort of got some hints of him using the no opt-out strategy that we read about in
Teach Like a Champion.
Yeah, in Teach Like a Champion. There's one point where this student like almost gets in a fight with another kid, and so Mr. Holland like keeps him back after class. And I think the kid is like high or something too, but he is like totally disengaged and doesn't want anything to do with the class, and says like, I can give you any dates and facts that you want to know, but I don't want to do this. And Mr. Holland's basically like, no, I still want you to give me something. You don't know anything about like the emotion of music. And so he gives him another opportunity to show what he's learned through like writing a paper. And so the kid isn't really happy about writing the paper, but Mr. Holland ends up using another like experience as a death of one of his students to give him the opportunity to like see the emotion in music and what it means to people. And so I think it was sort of like inadvertent, but I really liked how he used it to kind of turn it around and end up really being meaningful to that student.
The next one is actually in relation to that one, because the student that passed away is the funeral that he took that student to that student, I think his name was Louis.
Louis something.
Yes. He was a student who was on the wrestling team, and he was about to fail and then be ineligible, I think, to wrestle. And so that was his motivating factor in being in music, because music was supposed to help him like cushion his grades or help him pass so that he could be eligible. And so this kid didn't, like, you know, it's not like he chose music immediately, but Mr. Holland found that, like, his instrument was drums or percussion, because he would always be tapping his foot or moving something. And so he really worked with him a lot, and he was very patient with him. And there was a specific moment where, and it took him a really long time, and this kid was a really hard worker, which is what made such a difference for him, because it didn't really come very naturally to him. But there was one moment in class when they were in the middle of playing a piece, and he stopped in the middle, and the kid thought Mr. Holland was about to get on to him again because he lost the beat. But really, that was the moment that he had actually found the beat and kept the steady beat. And so he stopped everything to praise him, and that was a big deal for him, because I think stopping everything, even in the very moment of the lesson, stopping the flow to recognize a success is really important, especially for students that struggle in other areas, because it makes them feel special and it makes them proud of themselves. There's one more.
So the last one in the good techniques, I guess, would be that he made friends with his colleagues. So he, in kind of like reference to that last point, Mr. Holland includes the student at the request of his coach, and they develop a really great relationship over the course of the movie, which spans like 30 years, but really they met like Mr. Holland's first day, and the coach was very like kind of showing him the ropes, and also worked really hard to fight for like the arts being included, whether that was like in their budget meetings or making sure that his band students knew how to march on a field with his experience in the military. And so you just saw Mr. Holland make really good use of his peers around him to help his students learn more, like through the marching and him teaching them how to march, and just giving him confidence to like be more comfortable in front of the class.
Okay, so that was all of our positive qualities, and so now we'll move to our qualities or strategies, things that he did that that may have hindered his success with his students and just being a successful teacher. So the first one was, we noticed early on what he did was like just saying something was good just to say something. Like he just wanted to have something to say, or he would feel, I think a lot of times you feel bad because you don't have something good to say that's genuine, because, I mean, as a band director or a choir director, if you stop and really, like, that wasn't good, then you oftentimes cheapen that phrase by saying, oh, that was good, when it really wasn't good. And it doesn't mean you have to be a jerk about it, but I think really thinking about all the feedback that you're giving, even the tiny little phrases, is important, because in those moments when you do praise, because something went really well, it makes those moments mean all the more, and it makes your words to them mean even more.
The next one was that he, in the beginning movie, like his first little like stint in teaching, he didn't really listen to his students, and that sort of came in different ways. One, he seemed to be really impatient, and just like wanting to get through the lesson, and honestly just the day, because he didn't want to be there. He made the comment like he started teaching so he would have free time to like compose music, and then quickly realized that teaching doesn't offer you a lot of free time. But he just honestly wanted to get through classes, and so he would ask questions and not give his students time to respond. But he would also ask questions like do you have questions, or do you understand this, and not really allow students to answer, kind of making them be almost afraid to say something or speak up if they did have questions. And so it just created an environment where students talked under their breath and they were like, oh, I hate this class, or they just were silent, and so it made class unbearable for both sides.
Another one is, there was a time when he really called out individual students for specific answers that they gave on a test that did not go well in music appreciation. And so once he had graded the test, the next class, he was visibly very upset with them because they hadn't learned anything and none of them did well on the test. And he started kind of making fun of the answers that specific students gave. And I think that kind of speaks for itself. Number one, I don't think it's appropriate to read out answers on a test, answers on anything, unless you have permission from that student, or when the assignment is given, it's clear that those things are going to be shared in front of the class. So I don't think that's appropriate. And I think it's also obviously not appropriate to kind of lose your cool and blame it all on the students, because we've talked about in measurement, if all of your students do horribly on a test, then you should probably turn around and look in the mirror, because there's clearly something wrong with the way you're teaching them. So, and then the last one is kind of one of the more super obvious ones of the movie. He has kind of an unfortunate and inappropriate relationship with one of his students, a young lady who, it never really goes too far, way over the line, but he's just always right there pushing it. And so I would say the ways, without having to relive every detail of their relationship in the movie, I would say that some of the parts where he really, crossed the boundary was he met her outside of school without her parents knowing and without other people, being there. That's clearly, I think that's a problem, and it's not smart, especially because he's a male and she's a female, but either way in these days it really doesn't matter. And then the first thing, I think that what he could have done was, once he kind of sensed that she thought there was something more, he kind of should have pulled back and asked somebody else to be in the room during the lessons he was giving her, and just taken extra measures to make sure that relationship would never go further than it should have. And so that's just kind of a more obvious one. So those are our qualities that we found in Mr. Holland, from Mr. Holland's Opus. You're welcome.
Great movie.
It was a good movie.
We cried.
Yes.